Hello, you are tuning in to another live editions of VTV News brought to you by VTV International. I'm Ming Hằng, and let's now check out the headlines we have for you at this hour. In the latest update on the EC, China deploys 86 vessels to protect illegal oil rig placed in Vietnam's water. Atlas affirmed in 1827 affirms Vietnam's sovereignty over Paracel Islands. And Czech businesses eye partnership with Vietnam. Now we will begin VTV News with updates on the EC. Here are the latest news from the Vietnam Coast Guard. On Tuesday, China deployed 86 vessels to protect the Hải Dương 981 oil rig, which was illegally installed in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. So far, China has used 9 types of vessels to protect its drilling rig Hải Dương 981 in the Vietnam's waters, including military, Coast Guard, maritime surveillance, fishery administration, and transport ships. At 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, as Vietnam Coast Guard boat number 4032 approached the west side of Hải Dương 981 oil rig to request the removal of Chinese vessels from Vietnam's water, it was encircled and attacked by 3 Chinese vessels. The port side and 3 ventilation pipes of the Vietnamese vessel were damaged. At the same time, China's Coast Guard vessels also sprayed water cannons on Vietnam fishery control vessels number 628 as the latter approached the oil rig. Now, a group of foreign non-governmental organizations, or NGO, expressed their deep concern about China's illegal installation of a drilling rig in Vietnam's water during a press conference in Hanoi on Tuesday. The event was organized by the Vietnam Union of Friendship Organizations, or VUFO, to discuss the recent developments in the EC.
The event was attended by speakers and 300 delegates, including representatives from organizations operating in Vietnam and domestic and foreign media agencies. Speakers share history, legal aspects, as well as recent developments in the EC, with special emphasis placed on China's illegal installation of its Hải Dương 981 oil rig in Vietnam's waters, which is a serious violation of the sovereign rights and jurisdiction over the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf of Vietnam.
The action of China is quite risky, and I think Vietnam's reaction so far has been very prudent and very cautious, and I think that's the right approach. We will respond in ways that we think are appropriate to diffuse the situation and to keep the dialogue open so that we can have a very peaceful win-win situation for all parties concerned. We have a small role to play, but I think we can encourage continued discussion. That's the most important thing we can do.
At the conference, representatives from foreign NGOs highly valued Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng speech at the recent ASEAN summit in Myanmar, asking fellow South Asian leaders to unite with Vietnam in condemning China's oil rig in Vietnam's waters.
The fact that Prime Minister Dũng has raised this issue at the ASEAN meetings in Myanmar is a very good step. I think, however, much more needs to be done to marshal the support of ASEAN as well as other Western powers.
The recent ASEAN summit in Myanmar and all the ASEAN nations coming together and falling behind and supporting the Prime Minister of Vietnam to bring out a statement of solidarity and to put pressure onto one of the signatories, that is China, to abide by his commitment that was signed earlier. I think that was very strong, very powerful, and very correct.
Activity is now really to, first of all, try to de-escalate the situation, form round tables for discussion. I think the position of Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng that he presented in the ASEAN summit is leading in the very right direction to de-escalate and to try to solve the problem.
The NGOs called on all parties concerned to persistently promote negotiations on the grounds of respecting the international law. The organizations agreed that China's withdrawal of its rig and other vessels out of Vietnam's waters would help sustain regional and global peace and stability alike.
Now, many local organizations have also voiced their oppositions against China after the country illegally deployed oil rig Hải Dương 981 to Vietnamese waters in the East Seas early this month. In a statement released on Tuesday, the Vietnam's Women's Union has said over the past few days, the Vietnam's women's unions and Vietnamese women across the country have been dismayed by China's dangerous and provocative actions, which has seriously hurt the friendship between the two nations, especially the women of China and Vietnam, and the trust forged between the two sides. Vietnam's Veteran Association also released a statement demanding China immediately withdraw its rigs and vessels from Vietnam's water. Supreme Patriots of the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha Thích Phổ Tuệ has also called on Buddhist monks and followers worldwide to raise their voices against China's illegal placement of a drilling rig in Vietnam's water. The appeal was made during a ceremony held at Hanoi's base Quán Sứ Pagoda on Tuesday to celebrate Lord Buddha's 2,558th birthday. Now, continuing story related to the EC situations, VTV reporters spoke with Deputy Ministers of Foreign Affairs Phạm Quang Vinh following his return from the 24th ASEAN Summit and ASEAN Foreign Ministers meetings in Myanmar, where the EC situations received major attention. Let's now take a listen.
You have just come back from the 24th ASEAN Summit in Myanmar. Could you tell us what was the reaction of the member countries to China's illegal instrument of the Hải Dương 981 oil rig?
ASEAN leaders agreed ASEAN needed to voice its opinions on the issue so that the situation could be resolved. ASEAN needs to show its active and central role in the region.
Leaders at the 24th ASEAN Summit and the chairman of the summit issued two statements mentioning the East Sea situation. Prior to that, foreign ministers of the ASEAN member countries also released a joint statement concerning the East Sea issue. What is the significance of these statements?
It is rare for ASEAN leaders to jointly express their deep concern over the developments on the East Sea like that. They called for restraint at all sides in order to avoid the escalation of conflict. They also condemned any act of violence. Furthermore, the ASEAN leaders requested that all countries obey the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the EC, and quickly move towards a code of conduct in the EC. On the foreign minister's statement, this is the first time in almost 20 years that a statement of this kind has been issued on the EC. This shows the immediacy of the statement. ASEAN countries can use the statement issued at the recent meetings as a basis for their actions.
Vietnam is committed to adopting diplomatic and peaceful solutions to protecting its sovereignty. How did ASEAN leaders respond to Vietnam's attitude?
ASEAN members highly value this attitude. They also recognize the gravity of China's violations. Drawing on that, ASEAN leaders realized the need for ASEAN to voice its opinion. As clearly stated in Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng speech, this is an issue that concerns not only Vietnam and China, but also the peace and security of the whole region. That's another reason for ASEAN to step in. China's actions have violated the fundamental principles of international relations by disobeying international law. That's why ASEAN needs to join together and urge for the respect of international law.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Continuing the news with the EC situation, now U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has officially raised his concern over the EC tensions after China installations of an oil rig and dispatch of warships into Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. He made the comments before the third strategic dialogue between the U.S. and Singapore in Washington, D.C., the United States.
Speaking to the media before the U.S.-Singapore strategic dialogue, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry asserted that China's actions had brought tension to the Paracel Islands region and were an issue of special concern.
When I first became secretary, we want to see a code of conduct created. We want to see this resolved peacefully through the law of the sea, through arbitration, through any other means, but not direct confrontation and aggressive action.
Thus far, all U.S. politicians from the most influential senators and high government officials in the Obama administration have all voiced their deep concern at China's actions.
In related news, VTV reporter interviewed Sebastian Brabant, Senior European Union Defence and Security Representative, on the EU's viewpoint on China's illegal actions in Vietnam's territorial waters. More to follow.
What is the Europeans' view of the recent Chinese actions? We are concerned about the recent incidents between China and Vietnam relating to China's installation of the Hải Shell 981 oil rig. The European Union are concerned about unilateral actions affecting the security of the region. We urge concerned parties to search for peaceful and cooperative solutions in accordance with international laws, specifically the UNCLOS. For the European Union, it is most important that all parties refrain from unilateral actions that might threaten regional peace and security, and search for deceleration solutions. The European Union will follow these issues closely. Thank you very much for the interview.
Now, an original copy of Atlas Universals from 1827 has recently been donated to the Vietnam Ministries of Information and Communications. The reception took place on Tuesday here in Hanoi. The Atlas is an internationally recognized document proving Vietnam's sovereignties over the Paracel Islands. More in the following.
Published in 6 volumes in 1827, Atlas Universel by Philippe van der Meulen is one of the most renowned atlases in the world. The atlas includes a detailed map on the East Sea, where Vietnam's sovereignty over the Hoàng Sa or Paracel Islands is clearly indicated.
This atlas clearly indicates that the Paracel Islands belong to the region of Cochin, China, which encompasses the southern part of Vietnam. It is a proof of Vietnam's sovereignty over the islands.
Atlas Universel was the first atlas to show the entire landmass of the world on a uniform scale. Known for its scope and accuracy of details, it is hailed as one of Belgium's treasures and has inspired a 681-page research paper. In this map, the author drew the Paracel Islands. He noted on the side about the geographical features of the islands, like the reefs and the sandbanks. Even at that time, they were able to measure the locations of the islands quite accurately. Also in Atlas Universel, China's territory is indicated as reaching only as far south as Hainan Island and not crossing over the 18th parallel north. This information is in accord with Chinese maps produced prior to the start of the 20th century and other Western maps.
The Atlas Universel is an invaluable scientific document. It is a concise and effective proof of Vietnam's sovereignty.
The Royal Library of Belgium currently houses 5 original copies of the atlas. The copy now in possession of the Ministry of Information and Communications was acquired by a Vietnamese private collector from an antique bookshop in Brussels of Belgium.
Fishing vessels of the central region's fishermen are gathering at the waters around the Spratly and Paracel Islands, for it is now peak fishing season. Despite overwhelming difficulties, they still cling to their traditional profession. Our following report takes a look at the close coordination and solidarities among the fishing crews.
Rice, instant noodle and canned food are gathered from neighbors and given to this family when the husband is away on fishing trips and the wife falls ill. A single man can't cast a huge net or haul a big tuna all by himself, but he always gets help from his fellow fishermen. From the small favors to heavy manual work, everything is shared among the fishermen community. The bond between them is simply created from the hardships that they endure together. Our neighbors are also our fellow fishermen, our partners in our daily work. Doing things together makes things so much easier, and we can even do the things that seem impossible. Ward 6 in Tuy Hoa City, Phú Yên Province, is home to the most veteran tuna fishermen of the nation. The main fishing ground for more than 200 fishing vessels of this town are the waters around the Spratly and Paracel Islands. The local wharf is empty now, for most of the ships are currently away on their trips. The local fishermen union is also among the nation's very first unions. 132 fishermen have joined this union, using their ships to work together on the sea.
Since people join this union, we always support each other in their work. We are still able to make regular fishing trips to waters around the Spratly and Paracel Islands.
4 or 5 fishing vessels make up a group that work together on every trip. There are currently 3,500 such groups operating throughout the country, with about 135,000 men working in them. They achieve the yield of 1.2 to 1.5 times the amount they make when working alone. But high yields are not the only benefit from working in groups. Clinging to the sea together also brings them greater strength through unity, and with better support from the people and from the authorities, the fishermen are enjoying a more stable vocation.
I think that we managed to raise the awareness of our fishermen. The next step is to make sure that they get proper equipment that can raise their capabilities as well. For example, only with clear communications can they be aware of the situations and have appropriate behavior when they are at sea.
Fishermen can't live without the sea, and in situations like this, they can only cling to the sea if they work together. Risks can be reduced, the difficulties can be made easier, and the obstacles can be overcome when people are there to support each other.
Still to come on VTV News, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng greeted Myanmar Industry Minister and discussed business cooperation opportunities. And Czech businesses eye a partnership with Vietnam. Stay tuned with VTV News. We'll be right back.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. Now, Myanmar Industry Minister U Mont Min is now in Hanoi on a working visit. At a reception on Tuesday for Myanmar Industry Minister, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng congratulated Myanmar on its successful organizations of the 24th ASEAN Summit, noting that in his meeting with President Hun Sen, both sides agreed to promote stronger cooperation between the two countries in economics, trade, and investment. The Vietnamese government leader asked Minister U Mont Min to work with the Vietnam Ministries of Industry and Trade to discuss specific measures aimed at facilitating Vietnamese investment in Myanmar. The Myanmar minister told his host Myanmar government will offer the best possible condition for Vietnamese enterprises to do business in Myanmar, and the Myanmar Ministries of Industry will ensure Vietnamese businesses face no obstacle to their operations. Czech Minister of Industries and Trade, Mr. Jan Mládek, is currently on an official visit to Vietnam to attend the fourth meetings of the two countries' Intergovernmental Committee. On these occasions, the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industries, or VCCI, and the Confederations of Industries of the Czech Republic held the Vietnam-Czech Republic Business Forum in Hanoi yesterday morning. Linh Huong reports.
According to Hoàng Văn Dũng, VCCI's first executive vice president, Vietnam's young population, growing economy, and gateway to ASEAN market are among the factors that attract Czech enterprises. Mr. Jan Mládek, Czech Minister of Industry and Trade, confirmed that Vietnam is Czech's priority trade partner. There are ample opportunities for cooperation in various sectors.
Companies do have interest to export machinery, equipment for a wide range of industries, starting from mining, coal mining, uranium mining, up to equipment for agriculture, fruit and vegetable processing.
Nearly 20 Czech business representatives visited Vietnam this time in search for trade partners. The Vitgovis Machinery Group saw great potential to develop its activities in Vietnam.
We are not only a supplier of components, but we can be EPC contractor as well. So we are looking for cooperation with operators of existing power plants. We are looking for cooperation with investors for building of new, and we are looking for some local EPC contractors who we can deliver our components or deliveries.
Some attending companies were interested in boosting their existing business in Vietnam. Global Home, a Prague-based furniture company, for instance, is looking for new suppliers.
We cooperate with Vietnamese factories that supply us with the furniture, and the furniture is then exported worldwide. And we are hoping to get new partners or new suppliers from attending this forum for our future growth, so we can grow our business in the future.
In 2013, the two-way trade between Vietnam and Czech Republic reached $238 million. However, this figure is still very modest compared to the potentials of the two countries, and the business forum between Vietnam and Czech Republic is one of the efforts to enhance cooperation between business communities in these two countries.
In other news now, the 2014 United Nations Vesak Days came to a close on Tuesday, May the 13th. The event has been successfully organized in Vietnam, attracting the participation of millions of Buddhists across the country.
The Buddha Sangha of Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City on Tuesday held a solemn celebration for Buddha's 2558th birthday. The celebration conveys a message of promoting the reconciliation of conflicts, respect for life, an end to violence, and practice of philanthropy. They also confirmed that the 2014 Vesak Days, which was held for the second time in Vietnam, marks an important part in the development of Buddhism in Vietnam. In the central province of Thừa Thiên Huế, Buddhists gathered at the Budam Pagoda on Tuesday to attend the official celebration of the 2014 Vesak Days and prayed for peace, happiness, and prosperity for people around the world. Earlier, the Buddha Sangha of Vietnam in Thừa Thiên Huế province also held a Buddha procession through the main streets of Huế City and Buddha baiting ceremony. Various activities have also been organized in other localities, including Phú Yên and Khánh Hòa provinces, to celebrate the 2014 Vesak Days, drawing the participation of thousands of Buddhist followers. They are called to do good deeds, to contribute to a good life for their family and development for the society, as well as to promote love and sharing in the community.
And it is now time we check out the online news about Vietnam. The first news story comes from TTR Weekly. Accordingly, Vietnam's Ministry of Finance has drafted a circular allowing more international airports and seaports to open VAT rebate counters for international tourists. 2 airports in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi already have the privilege, but it will be extended to Da Nang and Cam Ranh international airports. Currently, international tourists can get VAT refunds at Nội Bài and Tân Sơn Nhất international airports. More banks can now join the VAT refund program instead of just Vietcombank, Maritime Bank, Vietinbank, and BIDV. The ministry has proposed the refund validity period for foreigners be extended to 60 days from the date they leave Vietnam instead of 30 days. Moving on to other news by thestar.com.my. Bazaya Corporation's BHD has written 6 drivers to invest and undertake a computerized lottery system in Vietnam. B Corp will undertake the Vietnam lottery business via Bazaya Zatic Investment Technology Company Limited, or Bazaya GTI, a company incorporated in Vietnam. Bazaya GTI is 50% owned by Bazaya Lottery Vietnam Limited, and it is in turn 80% owned by B Corp and 10% by B Toto. According to GloucesterCitizens.co.uk, dementia support workers from Gloucestershire has cycled across Vietnam and Cambodia to help raise money for the Alzheimer's societies. The 400-mile cycle by 3 friends, Caroline Stone, Andy Cohen, and Dave Jones, joined the other riders in the trip from Ho Chi Minh City across the Mekong Delta and into Cambodia. Finishing the challenge at Angkor Wat, the group raised £3,000 British to help the Alzheimer's societies to continue to support people and their families living with dementia.
The first figure comes from fibertofashion.com. Vietnam Ministry of Industry and Trade has ratified the Textile and Government Industry Development Plan 2020 with a vision for 2030. Under the Textile and Government Industry Development Plan, the ministry aims to achieve 55% localization rate by 2015, as about 55% of the raw material used in making the final products would be made in Vietnam. This localization rate is expected to increase to 65% by 2020 and to 70% by 2030. Prinsa Latina recently posted a story saying that Vietnam ranks 12th today on the list of countries receiving cyber attacks, according to the Internet Security Threat Report released by the Symantec Corporation last week. Vietnam has jumped 9 places due to the rapid increase of mobile phones and internet without adequate security. The report shows that in 2013, cyber attacks caused the greatest losses in history globally, with an increase of 62% over 2012, and 552 million users' identities misappropriated for criminal purposes.
And now, before we say goodbye, let's take a look at our updated weather forecast. And that is all we have for you at this hour. Simply log on to our address at vtv4.vn if you would like to rewatch this program. Thank you very much for tuning in. For now, goodbye from Hanoi.